further on that.
Thank you. Ms. Swear.
Thank you, Chairman. Sounds like Hill Roberts has some exciting changes happening, and I'm looking forward to working with you both. Thank you so much. Thank you. Exciting.
So congratulations as well, and look forward to working with you, and best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We have one more introduction for you this evening. I'll turn it over to Ms. Regan.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Ms. Katie Young, our new K-12 Math and Science Coordinator, to come up. So in the fall, when we learned that Ms. LaFleur was retiring, we knew that we had pretty big shoes to fill, and so we wanted to make sure that we started the process early in the spring, and because we wanted to ensure that we found a candidate that could really match our needs, and Ms. Young has really exemplified that already since she's been hired. I do want to thank the committee for their time, because they did learn a lot about Ms. Young, and I did want to share a little bit about that with you. She's been teaching for 20 years, and the majority of her professional career has been in Foxborough, where she started as a fourth grade classroom teacher and then quickly became a math specialist in the district, where she supported teachers with instructional strategies, looking at student data, and also took on some pretty significant leadership roles in her school as well as across the district. She also led professional development and led a math camp for many years. She also presented herself during the committee in such a way that has a very strong growth mindset. And one of the things that she said that the committee will not forget is that she won't stop until she figures it out. And so she's already tried to figure out this role. She started transitioning in Attleboro, but she spent a few days with Miss LaFleur before she retired, has already taken on a couple of projects with us in the math world. So we're happy to have Miss Young here tonight with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the welcome and the kind words. I've really enjoyed my first few days here in Attleboro. I've gotten my feet wet. I really already got to see some amazing things that are happening, and I've met wonderful educators already, just within a few days. When I was considering where I wanted to land career-wise, one thing that really stood out to me about Attleboro is your portrait of a graduate. And I know Dr. Madden had mentioned it as well. I believe that solid math and science education is what builds innovative, collaborative, communicative, and balanced thinkers and citizens. Every student can be prepared to tackle on the challenges of the future. The way we teach math and science from kindergarten through 12th grade with a rigorous curricula that nurture critical thinking, problem solving, and scientific inquiry will open the broadest path in life for all of our students. I'm eager to take on this new challenge with the incredible students, staff, and community members here in Attleboro. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and welcome to Attleboro and the district, and very impressive. And like Lori said, I think you come with high expectations of how much you impressed everyone in the process. So look forward to working with you over the next many years. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I'll just finish by saying that, education is a people business. Our staff is our most vital resource. It's what we spend most of our money on. And there's no more important decision than who we give jobs to, right? Who we bring in to do the work. And through the leadership that Ms. Singer has provided, we as a district have put a lot of effort into improving our processes to ensure that we get the best possible outcomes. And we're very proud as an administration about the quality of the kind of candidates that we're bringing into this community to do the work and to lead our educators to do their best work. So I think tonight's a shining example of that work coming to fruition. At this time, I'd like to call up Mr. Furtado. We have a budget that we need to approve.
So the city council approved a budget for fiscal year 2024, the amount of $98,973.28, correct?
Correct.
And how does that compare to what we had discussed before, what the mayor had proposed, what we had proposed to the city council? Where does that fall?
From the school committee's number, the 2 million above net school spending, it's less. It's less than half, a little less. So we would have been up closer to 100 million with the school committee's intent. And I do believe once the reconciled budget comes out of the state, which hasn't happened yet, we'll be adding to that number very modestly, about another $90,000. But that is what the municipal council.
So how much over net school spending is this approximately?
It's less than $1 million. It's, I want to say 850,000-ish.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the city council's fiscal year 2024 budget for the Attleboro School District of $98,098,973.28.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Mrs. Torres?
I know we talked about it before, but I think it needs to be stated. And again, I understand that our new mayor was put in when this process was already well underway. I can't blame somebody who was in office for 1 month on the fact that we are being, what I consider underfunded. Is that a fair statement, underfunded, compared to what we have in years past?
I believe relative to the past practice, yeah.
So if I remember correctly, the restaurant hotel tax from years ago, that is what, one point something million?
It was, just-
Like little less than 1.1 million?
right.
Okay, so we're already less than that. So we're already getting less than what, that increase many years ago was created and promised that the schools would always get that slightly more than 1 million. And then beyond that, we've received additional because of the way funding, and the schools are. I understand that we're okay this year, and I understand the reasons why we're okay this year. I'm a little bit more worried about next year. I'm sure you are as well. Has there been any discussion at City Hall regarding next year and what the expectation is based on what's going away?
No formal discussion on budgeting. However, I believe the mayor has proposed a committee made up of both school department and city employees to work on budgets. I think she wants a more comprehensive approach to budgeting citywide and a better level of transparency on both sides in terms of what the issues are and what the requirements are. And I have regularly, taken the position that, as the superintendent has reported out many, many times, while in Attleboro's history, being $2 million above net school spending is, new. Relative to the rest of the state, we are going the wrong way.
Again. And we talk about it year after year after year that we're compared to other districts that are comparable to us. We're upwards of 10 million-ish below where we should be.
I believe it's grown. I think it's
Somewhere in that.
Yeah, I think it's north of that.
Again, I know we've had this discussion over and over and over every single year, and nobody's looking for 10 million above, but the point is, every year we've been 2.25, 2.5-ish for many, many, many years, and then all of a sudden this year, we are where we are right now. And again, I know why we're okay this year, and I know that the additional funding that we're getting, so do you and the administration recommend we accept this? Right? Well, not that we don't have a choice on accepting, but that we take the formal vote to accept it.
Yeah, I think that, the school committee is in a very difficult position because you have standards that you don't want to erode and don't want to see fall back on. But at the same time, I think the district is going to operate well in '24. So, I think it would be prudent to pass the budget. I think that there is still a process to go through on the city side to understand where their costs are. I don't think, they have a firm grasp. I think there's some concern about structural deficits and that sort of thing. So I think 25 is going to be a genuinely difficult process. And I think that, perhaps the introduction of this new committee may help. But yes, for 24, I think
I appreciate it. And I was just going to, my worry is that this is going to become the new norm. And that everything we've been working for over many, many, many years to get to that 2.25, 2.5 above net is going to become, the past.
yeah, there's nothing to suggest 25 is going to
That's
bring it
exactly
back.
my word.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. If I remember correctly, when we first began discussing the budget in February with some wet concrete information, I guess you could say, we were looking at a little bit over 100 million. What the committee ultimately approved to send to the council was a little shy of 100 million, and now we're down to just above 98 million. So I know the initial drop was essentially, we were saved by the remaining year of ESSER funding, for the most part.
Yeah.
So are there any concerns with this now drop from what we had approved back in April to send to the council?
Again, not for the current year, but for September of 24, I'm very concerned, to see where we land. I think we're going to get some help with the continued implementation of the Student Opportunity Act, and now whether or not that's enough to get us past this particular, down cycle in the budget process. We'll have to see how that pans out.
Thank you.
Mr. Benici?
Thank you. My question, and I'm kind of piggyback off Rob a little bit, because I know what we voted on, because what was presented to us didn't match the normal 2.25 above net school spending that we typically get. But my question is, did this number go down, or is this what was proposed that night, and we said, no, we are going to recommend 2.25 above, knowing that ultimately the council makes it? Because this number looks a little smaller than what it was when it was originally proposed to us by the city. So I was
No,
curious.
it's an improvement over what was initially proposed.
So it's slightly, so we actually got a little bit more then. So
Yeah,
we were
that
below
what they
98.
originally came out at, yeah.
I thought we were a little higher than this and that something was up. All right. That was my question. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken about my concerns at length, so, I won't repeat them. We're reliant on the state. We have been. We saw what happened 8 years ago. I worry that's going to happen next year. The state's failing us out against this year. And I think we've said everything we can say up here. I don't know, the Sun Chronicle doesn't seem to be covering it or covering the meetings, so I don't know if the public will realize next year if the state doesn't come through, but, short of getting up on the buildings and screaming that, we're being underfunded and another 2008 could be coming. That's the fear, but it is what it is, so.
Again, as I had told the committee before, our enrollment has rebounded to pre-pandemic levels, and projections for next year are even higher. So, we're going to be getting a little kick just by the number of kids in the building.
But that's from, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But that's from the state, not just, so which the city will have to eventually match, and so the concern still locally exists. And
Oh, yeah.
to Mr. Withers' point, I think the difference 8 years ago was the city wasn't stepping up, and we had a structural problem with the state funding. The state funding has bailed us out this year and will help ease the impact next year.
Yep.
So it's tricky, like you said.
Mrs. Benici?
I apologize. I did have another note. I'm not sure, I've heard this talk of this one budget committee. Is there any other details about when this will start and who's involved? I've heard school committee representation, I've heard yourself, the new budget director. Do we have any more details about
It
who
was,
will get involved?
proposed a little over a week ago, and I think they're still vetting through, so they sent it to quite a few people, and they're still vetting through who's interested and who's not.
And Mr. Larson, I know that Councilman Conti has been kind of a somewhat regular guest at the budget meetings, and he has mentioned that it's taken him quite some time to understand the complexities of the budget. I only hope that more members of the council take that opportunity, because I'm not sure, I know some are more aware than others, but I'm not sure how many are fully aware of the complexities of this budget. So I hope whatever comes out of a committee, or even in general, there is more attention paid to what we deal with. Because you come every month to our budget meetings and give us an update on where our budget is. It's the largest part of the city budget, so we all know what we're dealing with. I hope our counterparts take that opportunity, and that's my comments.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes, Mr. Furtado, I just didn't hear clearly before. How much above net school spending? I know you said it was less than a million.
The numbers around 800,000, 850,000.
About 850,000, okay. All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Manci?
Yes.
Ms. Porto?
Yes.
Mr. Storrs?
Yes.
Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Withers? Yes. Mr. Geddes?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Frappier?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Attleboro Election Commission. You want to speak to this, Mr. Sawyer, you want me to? I don't want to steal your thunder, but
Oh, steal away.
the Attleboro Election Commission reached out, thanking us for using Willett and Quello for the last few years. They have requested that, starting with the potential preliminary election this fall, that they continue to utilize Quello for Ward 1. They'd like to move Ward 3 from Willett to the Marketplace Bistro at the high school, and move Ward 2 to the Studley Gym. I don't know, Mr. Sawyer, if you can speak to the logistics of that, what it means.
Well, I mean, so we've been using Coelho for some time, so, we've kind of gotten into the habit of planning around that. The move to Studley and the bistro, I know that Mr. Furtado and Mr. Printo were involved in discussions with them, gave them tours. The state came down to visit. So, as we've said all along, the school department is here to accommodate the needs of the city. The real concern is that when we have, September elections, those or other special elections, those are the ones that we're going to have school anyways. So on those days, primaries and such, we have a bit of a logistical challenge in the schools. But for election day in November, that we plan that PD day. And so in many ways, we think it's great that they're using more schools because, the buildings don't have kids in them, so might as well, use them on that day. And those are the days where the turnout is such that it's really required that we leave them open. So we're supportive. We're happy to work with the city and meet this need. We think the schools are, municipal buildings, and therefore it makes a lot of sense to use them. As for this particular plan, I'll ask Mr. Furtado if he has any comments about the specifics.
No, again, as Superintendent pointed out, we brought the State Board of Elections down because they had to certify everything. The city toured the facilities twice, and everybody was extremely comfortable with the logistics of their plan. Again, as Superintendent pointed out, we're going to have some challenges while students are in the building, but other than that, I think it's going to work just fine.
And just, we've talked a lot about, when we've talked about this at other schools, the safety issue, right, of people being in the building. The Marketplace and the bistro is closed up, is locked off in the rest of the school.
It is.
Do you know how long they're looking for this change for? It doesn't seem to say. Is it open-ended or is it for a year?
I would say it's open-ended.
Yeah, I don't think this is a temporary thing.
Mr. Geddes?
Thank you. So, to Mr. Withers' point, I think for years, since we were first approached, I think it was 3 terms ago about this, I've loved the idea and wish all of the polling stations were in schools. I guess I'm surprised. Is there a reason why they want to leave Willett? Because although the bistro and the gym at Studley are secure, isolated parts of the buildings to address the security concerns, but the bistro itself seems like a tight space to fit two precincts. So was there a particular reason why they wanted to move out of Willett?
What they had said to me repeatedly was, it was a little unsafe. They just, the school was on a hill and the parking is pretty limited. So that, I'm not sure the parking here is going to be a lot better.
Yeah.
But the lack of the hill is probably much more attractive.
Mr. Stewart?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, a couple of years ago, when they came to us and asked us to do Wamsutta and Qualo, I know I brought up that I went over to Wamsutta and I looked at the amount of spaces available, and it wasn't anything that they were thinking it was. And ultimately, we chose Wamsutta was not the right choice. I have the same concern with Studley. I looked at Studley today. I got a satellite image of it as well. And it's like 40 spots, give or take, in the main lot. You got about 10 in that little loop. And then, yes, if they allow parking on the street, and that's, do you know if they're going to allow, have they said that they're going to allow parking on the street?
I don't know what their plan is.
So we don't even know that. So we don't even know if parking will be allowed on the street. And we also know in the evenings, when you go down a little ways, they park on the street for the sports. So the point is, this is going to be highly disruptive. Qualo is disruptive enough, but there's parking across the street. I know we had a lot of conversations about that, and yet during the pickup and drop-off, it's a nightmare. So, and I know we go out of our way to try to recommend people don't come during those times and all that other stuff, but, when it comes to an election, you can't just say, don't show up. Studley is as bad as Wamsutta is. Now, I believe the high school here could work. Taking away half of Lot A, it's about 50 spots, is about half of Lot A. Who parks there now, and where are they going to park?
So we will have additional parking capacity that we don't have right now.
On the other side of the building.
Yeah, or, sort of towards Studley, yeah. So, and that's primarily student, so while for, kind of half the day it'll be busy, the other half it'll be, kind of open. So, again, I think there are going to be some logistical challenges with doing this, but I don't think it's a situation where we have to be concerned that it's doable. I mean, we had those conversations with both the state and the folks from Attleboro, and they're aware of it.
Realistically, we're talking about presidential primaries are the only elections where it really creates an issue, right? Because we've seen what happens with special election turnout. They're not a lot. We're closed on election day. And, if there's a municipal primary, the turnout's going to be even less than a special election. So it's really that every 4 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Next year.
Mr. Frappier?
And I just wanted to point out, as with Willett, where we were having it before, that's an unlined, narrow road along the side, which is more dangerous than
Right.
Studley. At least there's markers on the road and a real parking lot,
Right.
and no hill that the people that turn out to vote have to clamber on down. So I'd argue Studley's a better place for the broader set of the community than Willett has been in the past.
So right now, the teachers are parking in the lot at Studley, right?
Yeah.
Where are the teachers going to be parking? In the lot at Studley?
Yeah, that wouldn't change.
And where will the voters be parking?
Well, again, as you pointed out,
There
there's,
might be 20 spots maybe in the
for,
street.
pick-up, drop-off time.
And when you have buses coming down that road with people on both sides, that's dangerous.
Yeah, but again, that's sort of, buses are running out in like 12 minutes. So again, I'm not discounting the fact that that jams things up, but it's a very, very, very small piece of the day.
And the other thing is the light at the end, when people go that way, it's not the quickest of lights. So, I mean, I'm just looking at.
I don't think that's our concern, though.
Well, as far as backing up, it'll be a concern. What I'm trying to get at is that there's traffic-related concerns, there's not a lot of spots at Studley. There's more spots at Wamsutta, though I do agree, it's better marked off over at Studley because of the work that they've done. I don't know, I just have concerns about that. I would feel more comfortable doing it as a one-year trial run, and if they blow it, then we could reassess it.
And sorry, just an amateur experience with the election board, they do reevaluate every year.
Yeah.
During COVID, we did hold it at Thatcher due to social distancing constraints,
Yeah.
and we being the city, not me. So they do reevaluate, so we're not locked into this, but they try to move the places fewer and fewer times because it does create confusion when you move polling locations. So this is probably gonna stick, if it's not catastrophic, would be my prediction.
Yeah, I don't
Amateur.
think they have an interest in being at a locale that's gonna turn out to be significantly problematic logistically. I think they're trying to relieve that, and they ran into that a little bit at Willett.
All right, Mr. Menchen.
So you brought it up because it was, part of the concerns of having two wards so close together in a place that isn't La Salette, right? We're gonna get, what is gonna be our total parking again? I should know this answer, but at the high school, we're gonna have even more parking than we had at the old high school. Significant.
Yeah.
Significant. I thought by like somewhere between at least 75 to 100 more.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
I think that it's in that neighborhood, right?
Yeah, and that's gonna be done before, in the unlikelihood of a primary here in the city this year, I mean, the parking will still be complete, because it'll be complete before the school starts. And my only suggestion, because I'm a fan of using our public buildings as much as possible, I hope the city is considering having some additional details out there to kind of keep people moving and some good signage to let folks know Studley for Ward 2 and the high school for Ward 3. Aside from that, if they're gonna have that covered, I do think there's more capacity for folks in this area than over at Willett.
Mr. Story?
Thank you, Jim. In a lot of ways, I feel like this should have gone to the facilities subcommittee before it came to this committee. It could have given them some time to take a look at the things that we're talking about right now, so that we would have already had these answers. They could have talked to the Elections Commission, got their input on things. I know you did as well, but obviously not the full story, whether they're gonna use the parking on the street or not. If they're not, that's a problem. If it had gone to our facilities subcommittee, we'd have those answers right now, I believe. But as long as I know that after next year, if it turns out to be a nightmare, that this committee can come back and say, hey, you know what? We're gonna stop it, or we're gonna ask them to go somewhere else, then I'm okay with it. And is that a fair statement, that this committee could reassess this? Once we vote yes, it doesn't mean it's automatically approved forever. We have the ability, this committee has the ability to, for lack of a better term, retract that.
I don't know, I'm not gonna be here, so.
I would
no,
say
in all
without question,
seriousness,
the committee can vote
To do,
to retract that anytime it wants
What I
to.
wanted to verify, as long as that's the case, okay, I feel a little more.
I just had one last follow-up. You said the state has given their blessing, right? And the city has given theirs, but does that include our public safety leaders, our police chief and fire chief?
I suspect that once they've identified the location, that the election commission will go back then to public safety and say, okay, let's put a plan together for that day. And I don't think that came before the location identification.
Okay, so while I appreciate, the idea that it coming to the facilities and infrastructure subcommittee could make sense, we also don't meet nearly as much. We would need a special, but for me, like, if my vote, as long as I'm aware that eventually, at some point, it's gonna have eyes on Chief Hegney and Chief LaChance, and they give their blessing, I'll feel better about it. It doesn't sound like we have that at the moment, but at least if it still has to go before their eyes, before they say yay or nay, then.
I believe they've done that at all the locations of ours that they've used.
Okay, so they're coming to us first to get blessings before the police chief and fire chief give theirs. I wish it were the other way around, but as long as they're gonna look at it, I feel all right. Because I feel like we can support this, but ultimately, those two should really be the final decision makers on public safety, so.
all right, so I'll entertain a motion to utilize Coelho for Ward 1, Studley for Ward 2, and Attleboro High School Marketplace Bistro for Ward 3, beginning with the potential preliminary election. That would be on September 19th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Furtado. Do you have anything else? for
That
me
concludes
before
my
we
report.
Get into the contracts? Okay. All right, so we have 4 collective bargaining agreements to approve tonight. First, I would entertain a motion to approve the proposed memorandum of agreement between the school committee of Attleboro and the Attleboro Education Association.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Domenici?
Yes.
Ms. Porto?
Yes.
Mr. Stores?
Yes.
Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Withers, yes. Mr. Geddes?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Frappier?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
All right. Next, we have a motion to approve the proposed memorandum of agreement between the Attleboro School Committee and the Attleboro Paraprofessional Association.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Frappier?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Geddes?
Yes.
Mr. Withers, yes. Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Stores?
Yes.
Ms. Porto?
Yes.
Mr. Domenici?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, I'll entertain the proposed memorandum of agreement between the Attleboro School Committee and the Teamsters Local 653 Attleboro School Bus Drivers.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All right, hearing none. Mr. Domenici?
Yes.
Ms. Porto?
Yes.
Mr. Stores?
Yes.
Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Withers, yes. Mr. Geddes?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Frappier?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Finally, we have I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed memorandum of agreement between the Attleboro School Committee and the Trades Maintenance Mechanics Association.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All right, Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Frappier?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Geddes?
Yes.
Mr. Withers, yes. Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Stores?
Yes.
Ms. Porto?
Yes.
Mr. Domenici?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cotto. Thank you, Ms. Singer. Next on our agenda tonight, we have our minutes from our June 5th, 2023 meeting. The minutes, draft minutes were circulated with your materials. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or edits? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Consent agenda, 6 items tonight. Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $184.81 is broken down on the student lunch balances to be donated list for the remaining balances of their inactive lunch accounts to students in need. Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $10,000 from the Feinstein Foundation to Studley Elementary School's gift donations line. Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $900 from VHS Learning to Attleboro High School for their participation in the Mass STEM Advanced Placement Expansion Opportunity for deposit into the gifts donation line. Motion to accept the contractual obligation in the amount of $412.81 from Shutterfly LLC to the Britton Middle School gifts donation line. Motion to accept a payment in the amount of $45.90 from Bay State Textiles to Hill Roberts. And a motion to accept the donation of $2,000 from the Feinstein Foundation to the Thomas Willett Elementary School gifts donation line.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That concludes the consent agenda. Next, subcommittee reports. I'll turn it over to Mr. Larson for Finance and Budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance and Budget Subcommittee met on June 7th. We have a few end-of-the-year contract and motions to bring forward. Mr. Cotto and his team are in the process of wrapping up the fiscal year. Looks like we're going to aim positively, somewhere approximately 1% of our budget, give or take $500,000 or $600,000, which is pretty typical as to where we land. They do a fantastic job, and certainly have my thanks, considering everything that goes into it. Motions to come forward at this point were circulated out. The first one has to do with school lunch. So I'm going to read the motion, and then we can talk about it a little bit. So entertain a motion to approve an increase of 25 cents to school lunches and 10 cents to school breakfast beginning in the 23-24 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. As some of you know, and some of you may not know, the price of school lunch is actually regulated by the United States Department of Agriculture. They actually have pretty extensive worksheets that we have to fill out and stay within so that the quality of the food and the cost of the food all stay within guidelines that they set. We could spend the rest of the night going through that, but I think some of it was sent out with the information. And so at this point, I'll open it up if there's any questions from the committee.
I
Yes,
just,
Mr. Rappy.
I just want to share some of the deliberation we had that night about it, is that we actually only need to raise it up about 14% to meet the limit. We're going a little bit higher to make sure it's future-proof for a few more school years, and also limiting the need for the people at the registers to hand out pennies to students, which would delay school lunches even, more so than we
Yeah.
had to.
No, it's a very good point.
I think it's important to note and reiterate, when you're raising any fee, that in this case, we have no choice but to raise it, right, for the federal reimbursement.
That's correct, yeah. And we've not raised the rates in quite a number of years. And to Mr. Frappier's point, we could have gone up in a much smaller increment, but that would have brought pennies into the equation, and we may be back here doing this again in 2 years. So we thought that this was a much more reasonable increase that would cover us for a longer period of time. Mr. Torres.
So, yeah, this gives us an increase. Could you just let us know what the total price will be for next year?
I don't have enough time.
Tyler, I'm sure does.
This I think it's 275, 3 1/4, and 375.
Yeah, actually, so it's at 250, so it'll be going to 275. Yeah.
Thank you.
And also, sorry, Bill,
Yes.
there's, looks like the House and the Senate and Mass are looking to memorialize free student lunch as well. So this might not even affect our students the way it might have to in the fall. That again is up at the state level, out of our hands.
Yep.
Correct, yeah, the reconciled budget has not been finalized. Interestingly, the governor and the House both supported universal free lunch, funding universal free lunch. The Senate.
They reconciled today, I saw.
Did
It
they?
looks like they're both online, that they both want it. It's not agreed to, but it's closer to reality.
That's great, that's great news, yeah. We weren't looking forward to going back to charging for lunch.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
The next is to move forward with amendment number 1 to the food service contract with Whitson's for the FY 23-24 school year.
So moved. Second?
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The next two, we're going to be doing some painting at 2 of our elementary schools. We went out and received a number of bids based on the scope of work. I believe the bid packages were all sent out to you for your review. So the first one is a motion to approve the contract for painting at Studley Elementary School around the gym with Catco Contracting Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Yes.
I'm glad it'll look so nice for our voters in September.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes. Lastly, motion to approve the painting contract to the main entrance of Thatcher Elementary School with ATE Painting LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? In favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Next, infrastructure and facilities, Mr. Domenici.
Thank you, Chairman. We met on the 16th, so just about a little over a week and a half ago. A couple of items to note with the high school project. I mean, they're winding down the last of the project in terms of the punch list items here in the school. I think we were down to in the 20s, all expected to be taken care of before the start of next school year. There's a lot of, as people will know, they're doing the field work outside and a lot of those new exterior fields. Though the work will be ready, we won't be using them until probably around this time next year. So, because they're putting down sod and it's got to take time to kind of be ready to, unlike the nice artificial field that we have put in. We are also working on all understanding all the new building systems in the high school, confirming their working order, because there's like a 1-year warranty from Consigli, which is coming up on August 15th. So a couple of the things that I had asked at both our subcommittee and the school committee meeting is, there are some items that we didn't get until much later than August 15th of last year, but that's when the building became operational. Those things on their own merits, Consigli has confirmed, there's more time with that, but then that's their warranty. The actual products themselves also have warranties that extend much longer. So all is going well there. There's gonna be a lot of field and road work done, so paving all within the building, Rathbun Willard, the Rotary, that's all gonna be getting done over the summer. So for anybody who lives in the area, please be prepared, because a lot of that road work will be taking place. The project is on time and on budget, as is always said at the school building committee meetings. We also talked about the Willett roof. That project is moving along. The roofer is going to start at the beginning of July. The expectation is the project will be done for the start of school. And we basically have asked Mark to give us an update on where that's going when we meet in July, since we don't have an official meeting until later next year, and we'll talk about that in the motion I bring out. That's a city-funded project. With Willett Air Conditioning, we were looking to use some ESSER funds for that. The state had given a soft approval at the time of our meeting. I don't know, Mr. Furtado, if there's any different change in that. No. Mr. Furtado will be filling out the necessary paperwork in the coming weeks to get everything moving along. So this will, again, we can use ESSER funds for air quality, and this project could potentially be done in conjunction with all the other train performance work that's being done. The ESSER funds are going to expire in September 24, but if we start the work prior to September 24, we can continue to use those funds, because we had some concerns about that probably wouldn't be finished until around this time next year. So even though we finish kind of under the wire, we're allowed to use, if we've already contractually obligated the funds, even if it goes past September 2024, we get to use them. The Hyman Fine gym floors, finally done. We're happy. City-funded project. I think they've got a little invoicing reconciliation to do, but from a school perspective, we're good. Everything looks good, finally. So both Bill Roberts and Hyman Fine look the same as they once did, so that's good. We had a quick discussion about the security cameras. We had brought up the idea that we may be at a point where there's some end-of-life concerns with some upgrades in future discussions. This is something that's still working with the city. We didn't have any change since our last meeting on it, but we did touch base on it just to keep an eye. Same with the solar projects. It seems with all the changing in the city administration, none of us felt really confident that this project would go forward. I don't know if anything's changed in the last week and a half, but it seems like they combined the budget director with capital improvements in the city, and that person vacated the position. They had to hire somebody new. So this has gone nowhere. So I don't know if it'll ever go anywhere. Thatcher and Studley, as Mr. Larson just pointed out, we just approved the contractors to come in and do the painting, so we're happy about that as well. And then the last piece of business and where the motion came in was we had previously talked about whether or not we should consider discontinuing the infrastructure and facilities subcommittee, because there would seem to be a lot of redundancy between this subcommittee and the budget subcommittee with a lot of the updates. But we had a deeper discussion about it. We still feel there's a lot of value in keeping the meeting. We'll focus, we do try to focus on every little project. Bill talked about a couple of items tonight. I had other projects to talk about. There's a lot of train work going on. So we're going to keep it going. We're going to agree to continue meeting at different schools when we meet so that we can see the fruits of the labor, see the work being done. We even talked about the idea of, discussing any potential IT infrastructure as part of the subcommittee meeting as well. So with that, I have to entertain a motion to continue the infrastructure and facility subcommittee with the following dates for the 2023-2024 school year: October 11th, 2023, February 12th, 2024, and May 15th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The last piece of business is, we brought it up in subcommittee. I just figured I'd bring it out to the whole committee. We had a graduation take place in this building for the first time ever, and as it turned out, we had to actually do this indoors with very little notice. Kudos to Principal Campbell and the entire facilities committee for being able to turn that around in such quick order. A lot of positive feedback about the day. We were able to fit, we have a capacity of 2,132 in that gymnasium. So every student with 4 tickets for each of their families were all able to fit in the gym. We had simulcast outside in the cafeteria and also in the auditorium. I think it was very well received. You would have thought this was the plan all along, and what it really allows us to do is say, going forward, we have a date, and this is the date, rain or shine, because we have options either way. So just job well done, and we wanted to make sure that that was publicly recognized. And that completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Domenici. Next, we have open forum. Open forum, members can come forward and address the committee. Anyone who would like to address the committee has 3 minutes to speak. If there's anyone that would like to come and address the committee at open forum, please come up to the podium now.
Hi, Julie Rigby, Holly Street, Attleboro. We are not asking for any books to be banned. The objective is to have a better choice in the school library. I mean, a few years ago, every single person in this room would have been appalled to see some of those books in the school libraries. That's the reaction we get, or that's the reaction of parents when they see what's in the books. What we're looking for is a rating system of content. I mean, at the moment, they're rated by sentence structure, word complexity, but content is what we're questioning, the objectionable content of the books we've been talking about. You've indicated that you've made a notation in the school handbook that parents can opt out their students from objectionable books. But the parents have no way of knowing the content of the books, no way, unless they look at the books first and say that child can only read certain books. I mean, a much fairer way would be to have a rating system. If the publishers won't do it, maybe our librarians can do it, using some of the systems that you have already in place. Some of them do actually rate content, some not as well as others, but there is a way of rating content, and that's what we're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come and address the committee at open forum tonight?
I hope this doesn't put me over the 3 minutes, but I just want to start by saying there's moments in these meetings that remind me of the broadness of your work and your diligence and concern. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. So I'm going to put forth a comparison of Accelerated Reader, APS Destiny Online Library, and BookLooks reviews of some of the books found here. I will not go over the storylines, just the reviews of harmful content. Push by Sapphire. Accelerated Reader says, the plot contains adult themes, including graphic sexual situations and violence. APS Destiny has no review like that. BookLook says explicit sexual activities, incest, molestation, nudity, excess profanity, drugs, violence, including self-harm and controversial racial commentary. Sold by Patricia McCormick, Accelerated Reader has no review. APS Destiny has no review. BookLook says aberrant sexual activities, including rape of a minor, prostitution, explicit violence. BookLooks also on these 2 books says these have adult nature contents. Under 18 years old, it's illegal to view. APS has it rated as an adult for the first one. For the second one, APS has rated in young adult. So that's available to our middle schoolers, the accelerated ones. And that's also rated by BookLooks as under 18 years old, it's illegal to view. Tricks by Ellen Hopkins. Accelerated Reader says the plot contains graphic and disturbing sexual situations, including rape, child abuse, drug addiction, and deviant behavior. APS Destiny has no review. BookLook says explicit child rape, abuse, illegal drugs and abuse, underage alcohol use, graphic violence, explicit sexual activities, adult and child prostitution. Again, illegal under 18 years old. APS has this in the young adult middle school library. Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. Accelerated Reader has no review. APS Destiny has no review. Book Look says alcohol and drugs, sexual activities, nudity, profanity, suicide, violence, and bestiality. Again, under 18 is illegal. APS states it's an adult age book. Beloved by Toni Morrison. Accelerated Reader has no review. APS Destiny has no write-up at all, not even a storyline summary. Book Look says sexual activities, bestiality commentary, violence, racial commentary, profanity, and derogatory terms. Again, under 18 is illegal to view. APS has no comment on age limit. And a correction is needful to the comment that Accelerated Reader is a conservative review site that can neither be found on what they say about themselves or in any pro or con articles about it. And we can clearly see in this very small list that
Chairman, that's 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Dan, can I get your name for the record, please?
Oh, Elaine Marine, sorry.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the committee?
Hi, my name is Jillian Amaral. Today is actually the 70th anniversary of the Freedom to Read Statement, which was a collaboration between the American Library Association and the American Book Publishers Council, which consolidated to become the Association of American Publishers. It reads as if it was written today. I want to read the first paragraph. The freedom to read is essential to our democracy. It is continuously under attack. Private groups and public authorities in various parts of the country are working to remove or limit access to reading materials, to censor content in schools, to label controversial views, to distribute lists of objectionable books or authors, and to purge libraries. This goes on for multiple pages and has 7 steps for what the ALA and the American Publishers Association agreed on, which is a huge thing if you know libraries versus publishers. The first one is that it is in the public interest for publishers and librarians to make available the widest diversity of views and expressions, including those that are unorthodox, unpopular, or considered dangerous by the majority. I'm very concerned that the major amount of books that are being asked about are those that depict LGBTQ people, that depict people of different nationalities. There's a 4 times likelihood that someone, a teen who's LGBTQ, will try to kill themselves. One of the best preventions is to have at least one adult let them know that they're okay, and to have, and I quote from the Trevor Project, affirming spaces and activities, especially at school. These books can be opted out by parents, but what you can't necessarily do is tell my kid that they can't find a book that shows their life and maybe will save their life. I am incredibly offended as a mother, as a librarian, that people are trying to go back and ban books. No one that bans books is ever on the right side of history. Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to address the committee?
Hi, my name is Patty McGarry. I'm an Attleboro resident. I have a child in the Attleboro school system, and try to do this without as much emotion as I feel inside, because banning books, besides being a First Amendment travesty, going against the First Amendment, we talked earlier about some of the people that you brought that are going to be running the Hills Roberts School, and they talked about, one of the draws to Attleboro is the diversity of our community, both economically, socially, every single way. Banning books just takes all of that diversity away. It takes that opportunity for kids to learn about who they are and the community they live in and what's acceptable. And so as a parent, as a citizen of this state and country, I'm absolutely opposed to banning books, because all that's going to do is reverse all of the educational opportunities our kids have, the knowledge that they have, the confidence that they can gain, especially as an LGBTQ woman myself. I found a lot of source of comfort and strength in the literature that I was able to read and to get And I hope that this will be an opportunity for our own kids to get that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the committee tonight at open forum?
Good evening. Anthony Marine, 500 Mendon Road. I'll try to make this quick, but, we're obviously living in a time when right is called wrong, wrong is called right, when good is called evil, and evil is celebrated as good. For over 200 years in this country, protecting children from graphic content used to be commonly recognized as a basic duty shared by parents and educators. This is no longer the case. The Attleboro School District is adding books to their school library collection that contain explicit descriptions of sex acts, gore and violence, extreme vulgarity, drug abuse, and much, much more. Many of these titles, brought in under the guise of diversity and inclusion, would be considered pornography if given to a minor in any other setting, but are allowed in schools due to a legal loophole. Parents can no longer count on their school to protect them. It's now up to the parents. I'm just going to read a few excerpts from an article entitled Back to School for Parents. If you're interested in any of this, I could get you the resource information. I'll just cut through some of this. It's important that material for our children are exposed to are age-appropriate, yet the bar for age-appropriate content is being set lower and lower by activists who want to push the sexual agenda on our children. Study after study reveals that pornography exposure at a young age can have a detrimental effect on the minds of children. Schools may justify the content and claim these books offer educational value, but that does not change the negative impact such content has on a developing child. Pornography doesn't just mean explicitly sexual illustrations either. It also includes a description of sexual behavior. So pornography creates brain pathways similar to those produced in drug addiction and can be addicting and as harmful as cocaine. Pornography use among teens can negatively impact their sexual risk-taking, sexual functioning, body image, sexual objectification, and sexual aggression. Pornography teaches adolescents, particularly boys, their sexual urges can and should be gratified instantly, however and whenever they want, at all costs, whether violently, forcefully, obscenely, and in illegal ways. Finally, only 12% of parents know their teens are accessing pornography in the schools. So I urge parents to speak up now and get involved while you still have the freedom to do so. I'll leave you with a quote from Alexander Hamilton, one of our founding fathers of this country, said, "Those who stand for nothing fall for everything." Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Christina McDermott, 8 Middle Street. Mine's going to be really quick. We sit here and we try to decide who's right, who's wrong. I'm assuming that the people behind me are all parents. I, as a parent, when I became a parent, I knew what I wanted for my child. So it's not a numbers game. It's not about somebody being upset or how many people came, because we're sitting here going, okay, how many people can go and defend this and do that? The first person that spoke up here literally said it's not about banning books. It's about us having the choice for our own children. So let me repeat it again, because it doesn't seem like they heard that. We're not trying to ban books. We want... Did I laugh while you were talking?
All right, please.
Okay.
All right, please, both of you, you focus on us, and
Okay.
please, in the crowd,
So
no comments from the
I'm
crowd.
not
Thank
about
you.
banning books. I don't know if I need to say it 3 times, but it's not about that. It's about me being able to make my choices for my children, okay? I don't care what they do. I don't care what other parents do with their kids. It's about me and making those choices for my children. Other people shouldn't be doing that for me. So that's it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the committee?
I honestly wasn't prepared to speak tonight, but my name's Maggie Dennis, and I live on Hillside Ave. I have 2 children in the public school system. I'm floored that parents are put in position to decide the school needs to step in and decide what their children can read. I have written letters to the school and said I'm not comfortable with sex ed being discussed with my children. There's something to do at home. Public schools respect that. If I said to my children, I don't want you taking books out at school, then that's my position, and they are my kids. I don't expect anyone else to supervise my children's choices in school. I mean, are we picking friends for them in school? Because they all have different views, just like we all do. I don't expect you to stick my kid in a classroom that agrees with other parents' ways of raising their children. I believe books open our eyes and allow us to make our own decisions. If we're not aware of these issues, how can we even begin to make these decisions? So when they're adults and are set free and overwhelmed with all these other adult choices, you now want them to go back to middle school books and go, wow, I didn't know about that. I don't know what race theory is. I don't know what racism is. I don't understand religion or sexuality. And I feel by banning books with sexual abuse and bestiality, I hope that the Bible is not in the public school system, because it is in the Bible, okay? If we stop talking about sexual assault and racism, and it goes back behind the doors of our homes, children stop speaking up, and they don't understand what's right and wrong, and what's being done to them and exposed to them. And we go back to nurses going, do we know what's going on in those homes? Because these kids don't know they're wrong, because we've taken away the educational materials for them to understand what is right and what is wrong. When did it become the public schools' job to raise our kids? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the committee tonight at open forum?
Dorothy Lamar, Park Circle. At this moment in time, ChatGPT is pure fact. So we asked ChatGPT to write a short essay about why exposure to explicit sexual material is harmful to children. And the following was the answer. Exposure to sexually explicit material can be harmful to children due to several reasons. It is important to note that children are still in the process of developing emotionally. Here are a few key points explaining the harm. Sexual content intended for adults can be highly explicit, depicting adult relationships, behaviors, and scenarios that children are not emotionally equipped to understand. Exposure to such material can lead to confusion, anxiety, and emotional distress, potentially interfering with their healthy emotional development. Young children have limited cognitive abilities to discern and interpret complex sexual contexts. Exposure to explicit material can introduce them to concepts, language, and behaviors that are way beyond their comprehension, distorting their understanding of relationships, boundaries, and appropriate behavior. Sexual content often portrays unrealistic and distorted views of sexuality, relationships, and body image. Children, when exposed to such material, may develop unrealistic expectations or beliefs about their own bodies. This can lead to confusion, low self-esteem, and unhealthy attitudes towards sex and relationships. Exposure to sexually explicit material at a young age can make children more vulnerable to exploitation and grooming. It can desensitize them to inappropriate behavior, making it difficult for them to recognize and report instances of abuse or coercion. Predators may exploit children's exposure to explicit material to manipulate and victimize the children. Research suggests that early exposure to explicit material can have long-lasting effects on children. It may contribute to increased aggression, anxiety, depression, and risk-taking behaviors. It can also interfere with healthy sexual development and impair the establishment of fulfilling and respectful relationships in adulthood. Given these potential harms, it is crucial for parents, guardians, and society at large to protect children from premature exposure to sexually
Mr.
explicit
Chairman, that's 3
material.
minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the committee tonight at open forum?
Beverly Leckie, Canadian Goose Road. I enjoyed listening to everyone speak this evening. I'm happy to say it's nice to hear that we're all on the same page. It seems like everybody wants what's in the best interest for their children. Everybody wants the same things. Everybody wants parents' permission being asked. So all we have left to do now is for the school committee to come up with some policy where that can happen, where the parents who want their children to be able to check out these books can do so, and the parents who don't want their children to check out these books, their kids can be limited. I don't think it's a difficult, I don't think it's a difficult situation to put the adult content related books 18 and up that should be in a separate section. If your kid has permission, they can browse that section freely, and those children who don't have permission will not be in that section. That's not limiting anyone's children's choices. This isn't about the LGBTQ community. This isn't about anything like that. This is about material that I personally feel that isn't appropriate for my child to be reading. My child should not have the freedom to go into the library and pick out those things. And the children that are most harmed by this material are the children who aren't sitting down having nightly dinner conversations with their parents. These children are having conversations about sex ed with their parents. These children can be harmed more by this material without any guidance. And they should have permission. Their parents or their foster parents, whoever, should know what their children are reading. I just don't believe there should be free access for all students to go into the library and pick out this 18 years and up content. And when we have books in the middle school that are rated adult content for 7th and 8th grade, and we were told, yeah, 5th, 6th can go in there and browse those areas, even if it's for 20 minutes, whatever. But I'd be very unhappy if my 5th or 6th grader came home with those type of books. I have friends who have read some of these books, and they said they had a hard time stomaching these books at 27 years old, let alone even 17. We've heard a lot about book banning on the national forum. We have people who want to ban Dr. Seuss. We have people who want to ban Catcher in the Rye. We have, some classic books, Diary of Anne Frank. No one's asking for any of these type of books to be banned, just the ones that should be marked for adults. The ones, not ones that are discussing gender. We're talking about books that have foul language and very serious matter like child rape, molestation, child sex trafficking.
Mr. Chairman, that's 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Heather Moreau. I live on Emery Street. I also was not prepared to speak today. As a community member of Attleboro that has a transgender child that graduated from the high school here, they actually had to graduate from the night school because there's just too much going on in the day school for some of our students. That being said, I raised 5 children in this city. 2 of them were foster children that came from very real homes that had never discussed the things that they were in danger of, and so therefore they were in danger. In all my years here in Attleboro, I have never once had a child take a book out of a library that was inappropriate for their age without my consent. So I am not for removing books at all. Education is key to everyone. I already feel like there is a thing in place. My daughter wanted to read Twilight in junior high. I got a letter home before she was allowed to take that book out. I had to go and speak with the librarian to make sure whether it was okay or not okay. So if there's already something in place, why are we taking the books out that children that are in need of them won't have access to them? Sexual assault is a real thing that we do not discuss openly in every home. And those victims would have been better suited to be able to at least learn about it somewhere. And sometimes you don't want to talk to an adult. You just want to get in a book. So I feel like if there's already this thing in place where I got a letter home all these years that I've been here, anytime my child wanted to take a book out that might have been a little older than their age group, I really don't understand what the discussion is and why we're talking about any type of banning books. I just don't understand why we need a new system if the other one is still in place. Maybe I am not aware that not everybody gets that courtesy, but 5 children, lots of different schools, not one book was taken out with content I wouldn't allow my child to read. So I just don't understand even what this discussion is. And no parent knows that this is going on for the most part. I've lived here for 20 years and I just found out that we were even having this discussion. So that needs to be a more public forum also. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the committee tonight? All right, I will go ahead and close open forum. Thank you to all our community members for speaking tonight. Any new business? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.